So we keep asking the same question of everybody. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen to this crazy economy of ours?
Well,
what do you see happening here?
I think, three major themes that we have to understand, right? The creation of too much debt and too much money, right? That in amounts that never existed in our lifetime, but existed many times in the past, in the 1930 to 45 period, number one. So we'll talk about that, I hope. Number two is the internal conflict, populism of the left and the right, and what that is doing both politically, and that, of course, have economic considerations. And number three is the rising of great powers to challenge the existing great power and the existing world order. Now, if you bring those things down, here we are having a monetary policy. Okay, where are we in the monetary policy? And what's the big question? So if you want me to answer that, I'll give you.
So I think that big question is, can the Fed effectively reduce demand without breaking the back of the economy?
Okay. And rather than just jumping to the answer, I always like to deal with the mechanics of the answer, you know? And I think the answer is no, but here's the reason why. An interest rate, when there's a lot of debt, one man's debts are another man's financial assets. And they have to balance both of those things. And so they will not be able to raise interest rates to a high enough level to adequately provide a real return to investors. So if you think about the rise in rates, and we say 3% is an interest rate, or even 4% in an interest rate, that is not going to be an amount of money that's adequate to compensate for the inflation rate. And we're in a paradigm shift, I think. A paradigm is, something happens for 10 years, an environment for 10 years, and at the end of that 10 years, people believe everything that happened in the prior 10 years, and then they get a surprise. And then they start to change. And something like, for example, cash is a safe investment, or bonds are a safe investment after a 40-year bull market and those types of things. That begins to shift as they start to think, am I getting a real return? So there's going to be a supply-demand balance. Most importantly, the Federal Reserve is going to sell, individuals are selling, foreigners are selling, and the U.S. government is selling because it has to fund its deficit. So there's going to be a supply-demand problem. That means that it produces a squeeze because so much money was put out at such cheap rates and so much financing was taken that it'll be difficult to achieve that balance.
So I remember when you would tell us that cash is trash.
Yeah.
Is cash still trash?
Of course cash is still trash. Cash, I'm asking you, you know how fast you're losing buying power in cash?
I feel that in terms of inflation every day. However, I'm also, for those who own equities out there, they're feeling it even worse.
Well, it depends what cash is. Equities are trashier. Okay. The question is, what's going to get you a real return, right? And so we've shifted it into an environment where assets that do well, almost like in the 70s, are in those types of things. Real assets, real return assets in its various ways are the best investments. I think the world is long. Here's the dynamic I think that's a problem. Everybody's long, equities and so on. And everybody wants everything to go up. And the Federal Reserve wants everything to go up. So what they do is they give you money and credit, lots of money and credit, that helps hyping it. And when the more they hype it, the more it becomes somebody else's financial asset they're holding. And so the world is holding all these financial assets and so on. You can't have that. So you're going to have an environment, I think, of negative real returns. And so as you think about how do you diversify your portfolio or even be short those things, everything can't go up all the time. That system won't work that way.